Water damage, just saying it out loud is enough to make any homeowner nervous. But what if you had a clear, manageable plan to handle all that chaos? Well, that's exactly what we're going to build for you today, using insights from the pros who deal with this stuff every single day.
Okay, picture this. It's a gut-wrenching moment. You hear that sound of running water when nothing should be on. You smell that kind of musty odor, and then you see it. A pool of water spreading where it absolutely does not belong. That feeling of panic, that's exactly what we're going to arm you against today.
All right, let's dive right in. Here's our game plan. We'll start with the critical first 60 minutes, then we'll break down what a professional restoration actually looks like. We're going to decode the different kinds of water. Yep, there's a difference. We'll navigate the road to recovery, including insurance, and finally we'll talk about prevention, so you never have to deal with this again.
So the second you discover water damage, you are in a race against the clock. Seriously, every single minute that passes lets that destruction spread and get worse, making what you do in that first hour absolutely crucial. Just let that sink in for a second. The damage doubles every single hour. This is not a slow creep, it's an exponential problem. What starts as a simple wet spot on the carpet very quickly becomes a swollen subfloor, ruined drywall, and a real threat to your home's structure. And beyond the immediate water damage, there's a whole other threat with its own ticking clock. You've got about 48 hours before a new enemy shows up: mold. Once those spores find a nice damp surface, they start to colonize, and that creates a major health hazard and a cleanup that is way more complicated. You should think of these as your home's distress signals. These aren't just minor things you can put off until the weekend. If you see or smell any of this, it means you need to act right now, not tomorrow. So what does a professional response actually look like? Well, when you call in the experts, they don't just show up with a bucket and a mop. No, they bring a systematic, scientific process that's designed to wrestle that chaos back under control. The whole operation really breaks down into 3 main stages. First up is the emergency response, getting there fast. Second is the heavy lifting, extracting all that water and drying out everything it touched. And finally, the full restoration, which is all about bringing your home back to exactly how it was before. Now, here's what really separates a DIY job from what the pros do. They can see what you can't. Water is sneaky. It hides inside walls, under your floors, and in your insulation. Without tech like thermal imaging cameras, that hidden moisture becomes a ticking time bomb for mold and rot down the road. It's really important to have realistic expectations here. Yeah, the initial emergency might be over in a day, but the supercritical drying phase, that can take a full week of fans and dehumidifiers running constantly. And the complete restoration, the rebuilding part, that can often stretch into the next few weeks. It really is a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, let's get into the science of this a little bit. You might think water is just water, right? But in the restoration world, where that water came from, the source is everything. It totally dictates the entire approach to the cleanup and determines what can be saved and what has to go. This whole process isn't just guesswork. Professionals and the insurance companies follow a really strict set of rules called the IIC-RC S500 standard. This basically ensures the job is done safely and correctly, which is not only crucial for your home's health, but also for getting your insurance claim approved. And that standard is so important because water is broken down into 3 different categories. Category 1 is clean water, like from a burst supply line. But that's very different from Category 3 water, which could be from a sewage backup. That's considered grossly contaminated, and it pretty much requires throwing out any porous stuff it touches, like your drywall and carpet. It's also really important to understand the difference in the words people use. Cleanup is just that first emergency step of getting the visible water out. But restoration, that's the whole shebang. It's the complete process of making your home whole again, drying, sanitizing, rebuilding, all the way to that final coat of paint. Okay, so once the water's gone and the fans are humming, the next big hurdle shows up: dealing with the insurance company. And let's be honest, for a lot of people, this part can be just as stressful as the flood itself. This is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the answer, unfortunately, is, well, it depends. Homeowners insurance policies can be very, very specific about what kind of water damage they will and will not cover. So here's the key difference you have to know. Your policy is almost always designed to cover things that are sudden and accidental. A pipe that bursts out of nowhere or a washing machine hose that just fails, that's usually covered. But a slow leak you might have ignored or water coming in from a nearby river that overflows, that's typically excluded.
that outside flooding actually requires a totally separate flood insurance policy.
And this is another one of those areas where hiring a professional really pays off. They speak the insurance company's language. They provide all the detailed photos, the moisture readings, and the precise documentation you need to get your claim approved without a big fight.
We've spent a lot of time talking about the cure, but you know what they say, the best strategy is always prevention. So let's shift gears and talk about the proactive steps you can take to dramatically lower your risk of ever having to face this kind of emergency.
A really common culprit, especially if you're in an older home, is the plumbing itself. Those old galvanized pipes can look totally fine from the outside, but they're often corroding from the inside out, just waiting for a cold snap or a change in pressure to burst. Another huge point of failure is your sump pump. It is your basement's last line of defense during a big storm, but think about it. If the power goes out, that pump is completely useless right when you need it the most. And the result is often a basement that floods and floods fast. But you can absolutely fight back. These simple tips are your best defense. Number 1, knowing exactly where your main water shutoff is and how to turn it off. From there, just doing regular maintenance, testing your sump pump, checking appliance hoses for cracks, keeping your gutters clean. These things can prevent the vast majority of these disasters. So let's end with this question. After hearing about the potential damage, the long timeline, and the cost, what is the one thing you could do today to protect your home? Is it going down to the basement right now and finding that shutoff valve? Maybe it's testing your sump pump. If you take one small step right now, you might just save yourself from this entire ordeal down the line.